Hello, I'm Bob Pearce, Extension Professor and Director of Hemp Programs for the Plant and Soil Sciences Department at the College of Agriculture, Food and Environment at the University of Kentucky. And I appreciate this opportunity to visit with you today on some of my thoughts regarding the research that's necessary to create a sustainable hemp industry in the United States. When hemp re-entered the U.S. agricultural scene back in 2014, there was a lot of interest and a lot of excitement in hemp. Many of the proponents of hemp were making statements to the effect that hemp would be pest-free for the most part and easy to grow. Of course, we've since seen since that time that there are going to be some challenges in developing this industry. And so that's what I want to talk with you about a little bit today. So I've been asked to specifically discuss some issues related to sustainability of hemp. And I know there's a separate section on genetics and breeding, but I think that this is important enough that we really need to address it here as well, because in order to develop a sustainable industry, we're going to need to have well-adapted cultivars to each growing region and to the different uses for grain, fiber, or cannabinoids. Hemp is very early in the domestication process relative to, I think, many of our other commodity crops. And so there are a number of undesirable traits that help hemp to survive in the wild that are not adaptable to a sustainable industry. So things like seed shattering and the non-uniformity of flowering time, flowering height, seed maturation, all these make for some significant challenges for trying to develop an industry, particularly around grain, production of hemp for grain. And so we need to better understand these issues and try to hasten the domestication process to the best of our ability. Also have seed dormancy listed there. We've had a number of challenges with establishment. We know how many seeds we put into the ground for when we're direct seeding, and we know that we have relatively low establishment of those seeds. I'm not sure that that's actually a seed dormancy issue. There are a number of other factors there, but I think we do need to have a better understanding of the potential for seed dormancy in hemp. We also need to better understand the control of flowering and its relationship to day length, so that we can have cultivars released for different latitudes based on the intended use. And another thing I think we need to work towards as we develop those varieties is develop maturity groupings similar to what we have for soybean, for example, so that grower knows which cultivars are well adapted to their region. Now, the area that I'm most involved with is in production management and agronomy of hemp. And in this area, we have a lot of work that we need to do to identify the best management practices, again, in each production environment, whether it's dry land or irrigated or north to south, and for the different production systems. So whether or not we're growing for grain, fiber, or cannabinoids. Some of the things that we've been working on, but we need a lot more data in order to develop these best management practices are optimum planting times, for example, optimum planting populations. One of the things that we have seen so far in our research is that hemp is a very elastic plant. So we can produce acceptable grain yields with a wide range of populations. It results in some differences in the architecture of the plant in terms of branching, but we still need to determine what are the optimum plant populations, again, in different environments and the different uses. Same for optimum planting dates as well. Integrated pest management strategies. Contrary to what many people believe that hemp was going to be resistant to a number of different pests, we're seeing a lot of pest problems, disease issues, and so we need a better understanding of which ones are most important in terms of causing yield loss or quality loss to hemp. And because there are a limited number of pesticides available currently, we need to develop integrated pest management strategies to deal with those pests that are of the most importance. We need additional tools for harvesting decisions and also for managing our harvested product to maintain the quality of those products after harvest. Another thing that I think we need to do if we're going to really develop a sustainable industry and convince growers and the public that hemp is an important part of our agricultural system is to document the potential ecosystem services that may be provided by hemp. There has been a lot of talk about the fact that if we incorporate hemp into our typical crop rotations, yes, we will increase the diversity of the portfolio of crops, but growers are not going to adopt a new crop just for the sake of diversity. We really need to, for these growers, document the benefits that hemp brings to that rotation that they would not otherwise have, and identify what are the best rotational partners with hemp. What does well after hemp? What does hemp do well after, for example? How does this impact water relations? Water is going to become more limiting in many areas, and understanding how hemp in a rotation can either enhance water use efficiency or perhaps not, but we need to better understand that. Also understanding the impact of hemp on nutrient cycling in crop rotation. If we're removing a fiber crop of hemp, for example, how does that impact the crops that follow and the nutrients that will have to be added back to that soil? And then we also need to document any potential benefits of hemp to soil health and long-term environmental implications of adding hemp into rotations. Part of creating a sustainable industry is, hemp is going to have to displace other products in the marketplace, or it's going to have to displace other crops in our agricultural rotation. We also have to compete with other land uses, just like anything in agriculture. We're competing with urban land uses, so there's a limited amount of land that is potentially available for crop rotations. So if we're going to ask growers to incorporate hemp into those rotations and displace corn or soybean or some other commodity, they need to understand what they're getting into. So they're going to need accurate enterprise budgets. And again, I know there's a specific economic section to this, but in order to help economists develop those enterprise budgets that growers are going to need, the economists need realistic production information. So we need to have better information as to what is the cost of production for the inputs, the labor that's necessary, et cetera, and also give them realistic estimates of the expected yields so that they can calculate returns and come up with an accurate budget that helps growers make better decisions. And also going back to my last slide a bit, does hemp bring more than just an economic value to the grower? What are the ecosystem services that may also be provided by hemp that could add to that grower's bottom line in their overall operation? These are the kinds of things that need to be documented. Some other considerations, perhaps somewhat outside the production research realm that may affect the long-term productivity, is that in order, again, to convince growers and society that hemp can be a viable part of the overall mix of agricultural commodities, we need to have full life cycle analysis of some of these hemp-based products so that we can predict long-term environmental impacts. Many people have said that utilizing hemp is going to aid in various environmental impacts like carbon sequestration and things like that. But we really need good documentation of that in order to make this case and make hemp a sustainable crop. For growers, it's market stability in order to be able to make it sustainable. They need to understand what prices can they expect to receive if they're going to produce this product. And I think we also need to address the idea of consistent regulation across states. The patchwork of regulation that we currently have in place makes it fairly confusing for growers to understand what their requirements are and for moving products across state lines. So I think we need to work towards a more consistent regulatory framework for hemp across the nation. So just to kind of summarize, again, genetic resources are going to be very important to sustainability. There's a lot we have to learn about just growing this crop. So research on basic production practices, I think, is going to be very important. We do need to understand the hemp life cycle analyses, including, again, going back to the cost and inputs that we have, all the way to the products and how they're going to be used over time, and what products are they potentially displacing in the marketplace. We need accurate enterprise budgets to help make some of these decisions. And then, as I mentioned, some assistance in market development to help growers make better decisions. So we've got a good start, I think, on some of these things at various places around the country. I appreciate the effort that is being put forth here to assess where we're at and develop plans. And I look forward to discussing this further with you during the discussion session. Thank you.